You're all welcome, and I'm Michael. I'm hoping that this session will be as interactive as possible as we basically try and learn from each other in terms of the sort of things that we've been able to do, the kind of challenges that we've faced in the process of doing these things. And I'm going to share what we have, some of the things that we have experienced. And I'm hoping that everybody will join in. And then, if you have had similar experiences, please feel free to hop in and tell us about it and how you navigated it as well. So uh, without ado, I guess let's get going. So before I start, I'll just tell everybody a little bit about Triple Dimension and how it came to being and what we have been able to do so far, and then I'll jump into addressing some of the challenges that we have had while doing the things that we do as a makerspace. So I, I graduated from KNUST with bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering, but really I was hoping to um, do a bit of mechatronics, basically a little bit of electrical engineering, a bit of computer engineering, and things like that. And looking back, I think that some of it was inspired by some of the movies that I watched. Like some of these like sci-fi movies, the guy gets up and then he builds the entire machine from scratch. Absolutely no one is present, and then everything gets done, and he has this whole complex machine that he built by himself. So, you know, I always in the back of my mind, figured could I do that? And so while I was in school, university, I also took some time to learn electrical engineering and then some computer engineering. I mean, it turns out that in Kenya, you can just walk to a lecturer and tell them that you want to be part of his class, and you most likely say yes, and then you can just walk in and then have a session with them as well. So for the 4 years, I spent a good portion of the time jumping between courses, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, and computer engineering slash science. And so by the time I finished, I picked up a good set of um, hand skills, and I could do a lot. You know, I was sort of closer to what you see in the movie, just not nearly as wow as the movie can look. So the thing that fascinated me the most during the journey was the one of the fab labs that we visited. It's a Takrade Fab Lab. It's sponsored at the time by MIT. And then it was the first time that I ever laid my eyes on a CNC machine. And I was blown away. That CNC machine was a CO2 laser cutter. And like the possibility that I saw, the moment I saw that machine and I saw it doing its work, I was amazed because before then I was using, box cutters to cut paper and wood and all of those things. And so it was crazy to see a machine that basically used light to slice through any material and then give you like precise parts. And so I was really fascinated about those machines, and I was like, wait, could I build one myself? Can I make one that actually does something similar? And so that's basically what set me on the path to trying to learn about CNC machines and figure out how those machines worked. So I spent a lot of time at TTI. Sometimes we slept in the lab just to get some things done and then explore the possibilities of the CNC CO2 laser cutter that they had. Apart from that, they also had like a CNC router for PCBs. So that was also fascinating at the time for me. And so like I basically hopped onto the idea of building a CNC machine, because that machine could deliver very precise outputs. Whatever I thought about, at any point I could get a physical representation to like the closest dimension possible. And so I started going around hunting for recycled parts, used stepper motors, um, stepper motor drivers, all the parts that I needed to build a CNC milling machine. Um, and it took a while, getting all the parts. And honestly, I never managed to build it anyway. I couldn't at the time build my own CNC milling machine. But the journey was exciting. I learned a lot in the process. While chasing how to build CNC milling machines, I chanced upon a startup at the time, Class 3D. They had somebody who came into from a different maker space. I think it was in Kenya or something. They came around to teach them how to build 3D printers. And at the time, somewhere in 2014, 2015, 3D printers were the rave here in Ghana, because we had just seen the very first 3D printer myself. And again, a machine that could just take a design and then, lay plastic on, layer plastic on, so you had a three-dimensional thing. Mine was blown again, right? And so when I met Class 3D, and then they were in the process of learning how to build local 3D printers, I mean, I hopped on. I was always around them with their teacher slash mentor, just looking at what they were doing, how they were programming it, and things like that. And so that also sort of like added on to the knowledge that I had already picked up from learning trying to figure out how to build my own CNC machine. And I never could build any of the 3D printers that they built at the time, but it was exciting because I had learned a lot. I had learned more about stepper motors, stepper drivers. I learned about the way that all of these machines worked to a great extent. So I leveraged on all of this knowledge, and fast forward to somewhere 2019, 2020, I built my first CNC machine. It was terrible. It was terrible. But it moved, and I was excited because I had made it myself. And so that gave me the confidence to build another one. And I decided to go a little bit big. I decided to build myself a plasma cutter, because as a mechanical engineer, I needed to be able to work with metal. And some of the things that I needed to do at the time had to be made from metal. And so I decided, hey, let's build something that can cut metal precisely. So I put together the parts. Took a little over a year to get all the parts, the reading and everything, to get the parts together. And I built the very first one. It was exciting. It was difficult because I had to learn how to weld as part of the skills that I needed to be able to fabricate the machine. And it wasn't just welding. I needed to learn to weld precisely and then keep dimensional accuracy, which turns out to be quite difficult in welding, because when you apply heat to anything, it just moves around on you a lot. And so figuring out that, because it's a machine that was going to make other parts, and then it had to be precise by itself in order to be able to make precise parts for you. And so I managed to finish it, and I cut a few circles, and it was really exciting. So once I'd cut a few circles, I mean, the person that I was working with at the time, he was assisting me with the welding process. He told somebody about it and said, hey, I know a guy who's built a plasma cutter that can cut parts for you if you need it. So this guy walked up to me one day, and he said, hey, I have a customer who needs something. cut and I want to put it in a gate. Can you do it precisely for me? And I was like, yeah, sure. We have a machine that can do that. So he brings it and then we, cut this thing for him. He's pleased with the results and he gets another person to come in. So he tells another person walks in and says, hey, I heard you can do this. Can you cut this material for me? I was like, oh, sure, we can do that. And then we did that. And I realized a lot of people besides myself need something like this. They would require something that is precise and relatively fast and allows them to do some really good work and precise work. And so we set out to talk to the welders and fabricators about the machine that we had built. And soon enough, we had a lot of people turning out and saying, oh, hey, can you do this for me? We need it precisely cut. Can you do this for me? We had a few people from agricultural engineering coming around, fabricating their machines and they needed something cut. And, while all of this was going on, I thought to myself, why don't we set up something that allows people to just walk in and have a design and then have that design fabricated? Okay, so that is basically how Triple Dimension was born. It was born from a pet project of just, I want to build a CNC machine to something that people needed. And we eventually we started as a two-man team. And then eventually we have now grown to a six-person team running the Triple Dimension as we speak. And it's been an incredible journey. One of the things that people also heard about was our ability to build the machine. And so a couple of people approached us and said, hey, we hear that you can build this machine and it's a little bit cheaper than if we had imported it. And we're like, oh yes, we can do that. So they came to us and we built one for them. They were excited about it. It worked really well for them. And they were using the machine. And then they decided that they also wanted to reach out to artisans because, of course, it's a machine that can cut precise parts. And artisans need it. The metal workers need it. And so they started advertising as well as a company that could cut metal for people. And so, it to some extent it became a challenge because we are not and we are not a non-profit organization. We try to make some money in the process while we build the machines and also render services because being able to keep the lights on is important for running a makerspace. And so you start to see some of your customers go away because you built a machine for somebody and then the person decides that they want to also run a sort of do something similar to what you're doing. So that was very interesting for us. And the way that we had to navigate that was to, of course, increase the marketing, but also we had to figure out what other thing could we do in order to keep ourselves relevant to the welding community. And so it came down to forming relationships with the welders themselves and trying to figure out what sort of associations they can build in order to make sure that we remain relevant to them. And so we spoke to them about associations and how they could leverage the association to make some more money, make money for themselves and then also train the association because it's composed of or comprised of different members who require skill improvement and things like that. And so we have been talking with them to try and get them to put an association together that Triple Dimension can support. and then we can leverage that to help raise funds for their internal trainings and things like that. And so that was one way that we try to navigate the 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 fact that other people had, we had basically created our very own competition, because we had built, by the end of last year, we had built 4 plasma cutters that were scattered within the locality, and everybody at some point, once you have a machine like that, it seems like the next logical step, get people to come in, and then you can cut for them, because if the machine is idle, you're basically losing money. So, it looks like the next logical step. And so we had to get creative with the welding community so that we can remain relevant to them. As we speak, we're looking at other machines that are still relevant to the welding community. We're looking at tube cutting machines, and much larger drilling machines, so that they can cut holes and then cut square pipes and different kinds of pipes precisely. So just doing different things to ensure that we remain relevant to them. And the cool thing for me, or the interesting thing for me, is the fact that we are able to do it for the least amount of money possible, right? Because we leverage on our skill and our ability to build and construct these kinds of machines. And once we're able to do that, we're able to lower the cost for the fabricators, because the machine itself did not set us back a couple of $1,000. And so we're able to charge a little bit less than general market prices. That allows us to be relevant for the welding community. And so some of these things are some of the ways that we have been able to navigate, especially with the welding community. Now, recently, just about this year, plasma cutters began to phase out, because even though they're able to cut, they more than often leave something we call dross on the metal that has been cut. And so sometimes it's very small, sometimes it's a lot, depending on the age of the electrode and how long you've been cutting, or a bunch of things. So people started importing laser cutters, fiber laser cutters, which is a very interesting machine and very capable. And these machines, they're very precise. Off the shelf, there's minimal dross after tuning and proper tuning. So a couple of people started importing these things. And once we realized as a makerspace that people were importing these things, and these were just businessmen, they were not like engineers or anything like that. They're just businessmen who have heard that a machine like this is possible, and then they can make more money, running one as a service. And so we set out to learn how to use these machines. So I reached out to a friend who had a machine like that. He taught me the ropes, or he showed me the ropes, and then I coupled that with a bit more research. And then I taught the team how to use the machine, and also repair the machine, because we have a bit of background in building these sort of machines. And so once we're able to do that, we positioned ourselves as a makerspace, as an entity that's capable of, and also training people on how to use the machine effectively. And we have managed to set up for 2 people over the year. We still in talks with other people who want to import the machines, and then we will train these people, and then also offer repair services. for these sort of machines. This again makes us relevant to the not just the welding community, but now the anybody else who's running a similar sort of setup, a similar machine. We're able to make some money by training you and getting you parts. And if they are broken, fixing the machine or running a maintenance program for your machine to ensure that your machine is always in the best working condition. Um, so we positioned ourselves like that, and that keeps us at least abreast with what's happening on the welding community, as well as the metal fabrication community. Now, the laser cutter also, besides being something that we're teaching other people how to use, presents its own challenge because we don't have one as a makerspace. We do not own a fiber laser cutter. And because of how clean the cut is and how fast it is, we started to lose customers to fiber laser cutters because once it comes off the table, it's good to go. With plasma cutting, occasionally you need to grind some dross off, and sometimes it looks weird. Sometimes because it's on water, and sometimes a couple of other issues that laser cutters don't have. So to combat that, the ideal thing is to go and look for a fiber laser cutter and purchase. And then I check the prices, and they're quite expensive, very expensive actually, very expensive. And so, being true to what we are as a makerspace, we decided to design and build our own. And so we are in the process of constructing our own fiber laser cutter to again try and stay relevant to the community that we're within, and also ensure that we're also able to capture a good portion of the market. So we have constantly faced different kinds of challenges as we're growing as a makerspace. And I'm only talking about the metal fabrication part. I will come into the 3D printing and all the other things that we have also done to try and ensure that we're able to keep the lights on. We've had all of these challenges, and we have had to think on our feet, leverage the skills that we have as individuals and then as a team to be able to deal with some of these problems. And it's been, for me, really it's been an eye-opener because the truth is, whenever you start something, you're going to have competition if you don't already have that competition. There's going to be competition that's going to build up. Okay, and so how do you, as a makerspace, adapt to that competition, and how do you ensure that you stay ahead of the competition, or make sure that you are dynamic? That has been one of the things that I have learned over the 2 years that we have been running as a makerspace. There's just one challenge after the other, and then we keep trying to figure out ways to ensure that we're able to circumvent those challenges in order to remain relevant. Is made us a group that's really thinking. We're looking at other untapped markets that people have not yet touched on, and are still trying to figure things out in that direction. And so some of the other things that we did as a makerspace to try and stay relevant is to try and sort of have a partnership with some educational institution. And so we spoke to KNUST, specifically TCC. The department is called Technology Consultancy Center. And they have a sort of a workshop called, now it's called um, TTPU, Technology Transfer and Production Unit. Now, what's interesting with KNUST and TTPU specifically was they had CNC milling machines, industrial grade CNC milling machines, industrial grade CNC lathe machines that were just sitting there. These machines had been brought. After the first run or so, then that was all. It was just left there, right? And because there was nobody to operate the machine and nobody to do anything with the machine. And so I approached the director then, and I said to him, hey, I came from KNUST and I have been building these sort of machines. So if you let us, we're happy to attempt to run the machine for you. So of course, this took from the initial approach to the time when we actually got to use the machine, took about a year to get done. The process was very slow. So in fact, there was a change of directors during the process, and I almost had to start the process all over again just to get back into the new director because he didn't know me, and he was new. He had like these really big things that he wanted to do, and so I had to find my way back to the new director. I had to speak to him, and then together we got somebody from I think the US. He came in and then helped us, set up quickly. He was here for about a week, and from then, myself and then my team have been training their staff on how to use the machines from I think this entire year. That's one of the things that we have been doing with the with TTPU, and that has in effect while we are not and I like to speak to this about sometimes um, holding off on collecting money for certain things. All the trainings that we've done for them so far have been free of charge. The condition is, can we also use the machine for other things? If we have some sort of device that we're building, internally, can we use the machine? And they agree to it. So if it's an external job, then we charge for it. But if it's a job that Triple Dimension is using for its internal purposes, then it's basically free of charge. And what they have done in return is they allow us to maintain the machines into the purchasing of consumables, purchasing of tool holders, vices, and everything that you need to run a CNC machine, like an industrial grade CNC machine. They allowed us to purchase those things, and that's where we made some money in the process of purchasing and replacing consumables for them. And also we have positioned ourselves as an entity that will be able to offer training for them in case they are able to score up any training deals. And being a young makerspace, some of these training sessions, really big training sessions, are a little out of our reach because it turns out that there are somewhere in the country, there are about 7 institutions that have fully equipped CNC labs that they also have not touched. And we are currently working with TTP you to schedule a sort of training session, paid training session with those institutions. And once we're able to do that, we'll also make some money through that process. And so for us, it's just been a lot of navigating challenges and then learning when not to, for example, take money, because to some extent we have, besides supplying consumables, they also pass on design contracts. So when the contract is a little above their current staff capability, they pass on some of these contracts to us, and then we execute for a small fee, which has been relatively good for us because it's helped us to, one, remain relevant, and two, speed up our own internal manufacturing processes, because with an industrial CNC machine, you're able to get very precise parts for making precise machines. And so being able to leverage on that has really helped us. And we're really growing from that. So far, yeah, that is what we've been able to do as a makerspace, and some of the challenges that we have had in the specifically metalworking industry. So I'll pause for questions, contributions, and then if not, I will carry on. Yes, Anna.
Thanks very much, Michael. A couple of questions from my side. One of them is whether you decided to carry on making the laser cutting machines once you had realized that you were creating competition for yourselves, or whether that perhaps became obsolete with the different type of machines now being imported. And another one is, I was wondering if you could just say a few words about like how you actually engage the welders, and whether you've had any, how you find their appetite for incorporating newer technologies into their work. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. To answer the first question, yes, the importation of fiber laser cutters had a significant impact on whether people wanted plasma cutters or not. But as an entity, we decided to sort of pause on building and selling these sort of machines, just to buy ourselves a little bit of time to find our feet in the sort of competition that we were creating. So we have basically paused on the manufacture of these things. So we don't advertise anymore that we're able to build these sort of machines. We want to ensure that we have built some stability within the metal fabrication industry, and within the artisans, and then we can proceed with selling some of these things. Also, really, like I said, generally people just preferred the fiber laser cutter, and so it just became something that, to some extent, if you came to me and said, "Hey, Mike, build me a plasma cutter," in as much as I'd like your money, I would probably advise you to save up and then buy a fiber laser cutter, because it would serve you well instead. So we have had a few people who have approached us concerning the build of a plasma cutter, and I told them this exact same thing, that you can either let us buy you one, or we could build you one. And so we're waiting for responses from some of these people to see if they actually would want to. But then again, we haven't built one ourselves, and so there is nothing to show. But in a couple of months, we hope we can have one and something to show. Steve, your hand is up.
Awesome, Michael. Thanks for sharing.
Sure.
Yeah, I was also interested in the learnings about developing a market and like basically business development. So why do you guys not finance a fiber laser cutter? Obviously you've got the clients and you understand the business model and you know the value that it creates. Wouldn't it be something that you would have the confidence to pay off over 3 years or whatever by charging for the service? And then I think deciding whether you're going to build machines or provide services. We've managed to turn our laser cutter into a service center, so that helps with some of our revenue. And we'd be happy to share like some of the pricing learnings over time. Like it's sometimes you realize where the value comes in, and you're not charging for it, and you want to build a model where it scales. So if someone orders 1,000 units, it doesn't suddenly break, or if someone orders 1 unit, it doesn't break. It end up in a situation where you're spending a whole lot of time and energy creating invoices and for a very small job. But so the double question, one is just have you guys thought about financing it, and if so, or if not, why not? And then in terms of building a service model, is that something that you're against? And assuming the people that are buying the fiber laser cut parts, they're paying those businessmen you talked about are making a return on their equipment, so they're not undercutting you. Or what's your thinking about where the market's at there? Okay,
thank you very much. Let me try and then finish with Anna's question. I think your second question was artisan engagement, right? All right. And what we have done to try and engage them. Okay, right. So
yeah, and specifically how receptive you found them, and like how easy or otherwise it is to get them to see the benefit.
Yes, thank you again. They're very receptive of new technology. That's something that I've realized about them. They are looking for something that makes their work easy. If they can finish whatever a door, a contract within, the faster you're able to finish a contract, the more money you make, right? Basically. So for them, it's about being able to quickly finish things into. It's one of the reasons why most of them just moved from plasma cutting to fiber laser cutting, because one, it's faster and it's more precise, and so there's less work to be done on a part that's been laser cut than one that's been plasma cut. And so they just, oh hey, this is much faster, and so we just head there and get it cut quickly so we can finish our work quickly. And so in terms of being receptive, yes, they are interested in laser welding. They want to learn things like TIG welding for those who really want TIG welding, and those who want fiber laser welding. They're looking at opportunities to learn some of these things. And so they are very, very receptive, and whenever we have a conversation, they talk about the sort of things that they want to do to improve their own work and flow and processes. And it's some of the things that guides the way that we adapt as a makerspace, based on some of the conversations that we have with them. Okay, Steve, yes. Do we just finance a fiber laser cutter? We could try and do that. We could certainly, I'm trying to have conversations with people who would support us as a makerspace to purchase one, either give us some sort of soft loan or something like that to finance one. I've spoken to quite a number of suppliers, and that's how I know the price ranges that they fall within. Now, thing is, while we are waiting for some of these things to come through, there is a much affordable way to pull it off, and so we're doing something while we wait for either some of our partners to help with the fund for doing that, or taking a loan from the bank, which is really not a good idea in Ghana as a young business. But the way to one of the ways that we're looking at is being able to purchase one, and would be very happy within like next year, hopefully mid next year, we should have one that we have purchased, hopefully. But between now and that time, we have built a number of CNC machines. We have some of the parts lying around, servo motors and a whole bunch of other things that are just there. So the idea is, why not just take it and then build one quickly? So in the space of 2 months, we have a fiber laser cutter that is running and cutting for people, and we can price a little bit lower than the market value, because rather than paying for it in 2 years, in 3 years, and how about you pay for it in 1, right? That for us makes a lot of sense, and also the fact that we have the parts lying around, and some of them already. So yeah, that's the logic behind them, building one ourselves, as opposed to buying now currently, because it's a much easier route than finding money. We are still plasma cutting for our clients, and then we're saving up the money just to get to the threshold where we can talk to somebody and say, hey, we've got this amount of money, we can pay it off, we can give this to you, and then afterwards you give us about a year or 3 months or 6 months or whatever you think it's reasonable, and then we can purchase a fiber laser cutter. So that's the routes that we're going through based on what is on the ground for us. Was there a second question? I think I missed your second question, Steve.
I was just asking about the service part of the business, and if you guys had like a pricing model, and how, if you understand the market, that if people are they paying less for plasma cuts objects and there's still market for it, or are you finding that the guys are able to charge less for the fiber cutting because they can do it quicker and they've got more scale?
So what we're currently doing, and I think it applies to all the other people who are running plasma cutters right now, is you charge a little bit less to get people to come in. Now, when with pricing here in Ghana, it also has to do with how long, how do I put this? How much did the machine cost you to purchase, and how long is it going to take for you to recoup that money? So a fiber laser cutter will set you back maybe 30,000 USD, and a plasma cutter will set you back 5 or 6,000 USD, and so the difference is almost 5 times. So if you build it, when we build our own plasma cutter, I think it set us back maybe like 3,000 USD, so maybe even less, maybe 2,000 less. So it basically takes a shorter period of time to recoup the money and pay for the machine, and then every other cut that you do is something that is basically profits, because you've paid for the machine. In theory, you can buy another one once you've paid for it. And so it's one of the reasons why, because we have parts, we want to quickly put a fiber laser cutter together, because if the math is right, we should be able to pay for the entire machine within a year if we market we marketed the service as if we market the service bit of it very well, we should be able to make some good amount of money and then pay for the fiber laser cutter that we built within a year, and we can choose to from there, build another one or purchase one if we have had enough money. I think the main difference between what we might build and then what we might purchase might be how extra fast you can run, I think, which really might not make a big difference for if the power is still within the same range, then maybe not so much. The speed difference might not be. But anyway, we're still looking into it, but we have, I think we're about 50% through with the frame and gantry and all of those things. As a matter of fact, we just took like receipt of a fiber laser controller, and so see how that goes. Wasn't that expensive, so we'll build one and see, and then if it goes well, pricing wise, just to say a little bit about pricing and what we've been trying to do with our machines. We truly wanted to run a distributed sort of manufacturing setup where we have at the time multiple plasma cutters in different locations. So we had chosen a couple of hotspots. In Ghana, we have places like Swami and somewhere, a few other hotspots. And then the plan was to build plasma cutters and then put there, and then run those plasma cutters. We did finish those plasma cutters. We got them to location, but then the market changed. And so people just, the plasma cutting thing just basically slowed down a bit. Even though you are significantly cheaper, it's to some extent, for some of the fabricators, I guess a lot of them, it's not worth the amount of work that has to be done when you have finished cutting for them, especially their draws, that sometimes is problematic for a lot of the welders, because the clients see other people's work and they say, I want mine to look as nice as this one. And then the welder goes to find out how this guy cut his work, and then he applies the same thing. And so it's sort of like by word of mouth, and then it just carries through like that. And then everybody just moves to fiber laser cutting because, the clients like the way that it looks. So what we did with, back to that, which is basically obsolete now, but we'll reapply it. And what we did with that was we sort of created a software that managed the transfer of the files and then the pricing as well. So when the design comes in, we look at, for example, in plasma cutting, you're looking at how many PSs, because that affects the life of the electrode and all of those things. So how many PSs you are doing and all of those things, and you factor all of that into sort of price for plasma cutting. And we had somebody who basically did the designs from a central location, and then he sent the files to the various locations of the plasma cuts. That way we could track how much money we are expecting from each location, and how much we've priced and how many plates they're cutting and all of those things. And then also prevented people from basically loading their own files and then cutting without your knowledge. And so the software and its associated hardware is still in the beta testing stage. We're trying to, it's sort of like something internal that we're doing to help us manage our machines, especially the plasma cutters. Now that we probably have to switch, I have to look into how we can port the entire hardware and software for fiber laser cutting, especially off-the-shelf fiber laser cutters, because those are a little bit tricky to sort of lock down, because there's a whole PC built into it that has multiple ports that you can plug anything into. But that's basically something that we're looking into, just so that once we are able to get into the fiber laser cutting space, we whether we purchase or build, we will be able to ensure that the thing that we have developed is able to manage the machines that we have. We're also looking at porting it to all of our other machines, CO2 laser cutters, 3D printers, tube cutting machines, all of those things. We're looking at how we can port the software and hardware to all of these things so that we have a sort of a centralized system that manages our pricing and then the plates, regardless of where an extension of our makerspace may be located. And Steve, does that answer the question? Are there any other questions?
No, that's cool. Maybe just a comment. It's difficult to run a makerspace as well as do 10 other things. I would advise you to think about where you're going to get the most value and long-term revenue, like whether it's building machines or leasing machines or providing services, or the combination of those. But I think developing your own machines creates like a whole lot of secondary and third order problems, like having to support the machines and getting calls about old machines that are no longer in stock and having to explain things to customers, where providing like a service is just something you can train people on, and you can scale and use whatever machines you need to provide the service. But yeah, I'm interested to learn as well, so I definitely don't have all the answers, but it does sound like if I had to add on building machines onto what I do with everything that goes on, it's like a lot,
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. And I think I mentioned in while I was talking, that we had basically paused the process of building machines for people. We won't, it's not something that we plan to do for a considerable amount of time. We would rather be the institution that will help you purchase one and then set it up. We might not sell ours to you, because like you said, support and then making sure all of those things actually pass. But internally, in like machines that we've built internally, you understand it, you know what's wrong with it and all of those things. You can quickly, very easily fix it if need be. And so for now, we're not advertising as a makerspace that's capable of building, whose primary aim is to build machines for you. We're going to be focusing primarily on the services that these machines could. And honestly, there's more money to be made in rendering services with these machines than you can actually get from manufacturing and then selling the machine. And especially if you're not a business whose sole aim is building and selling these machines, there isn't really a lot of money that is in that industry. And so we would, as a makerspace, we're primarily focusing now on running as a service. And so all the machines that we're currently building are just for internal use. The idea is not to sell these machines to anybody else, and just internal. All right. Any other questions? Otherwise, I can move on and just talk a little bit about what we have done in the 3D printing space. And okay, right. So I'll carry on. So we are adding CO2 laser cutting and CNC routing for wood and those kinds of softer materials to our arsenal as a makerspace. We also have added some 3D printers to mainly for development purposes. But recently we are looking at the signage industry to see what is possible within that industry in terms of using large format 3D printers to print the sort of signs that a lot of people have these days. And so we have started exploring that possibility as well. We have one client at the moment who is looking at doing some large format 3D printing. So we're going to attempt that. We haven't had a lot of challenges in the 3D printing markets because it's even though it's old, it's kind of new because people here in Ghana don't really use it for commercial purposes, so to speak. What I mean by commercial purposes is like they don't make things like signs and the like using their 3D printers. Most people who are into signage go by the traditional method, and other people who want anything 3D printed generally any other person who wants something 3D printed is generally simple things that they want, the student projects and things like that. And there is a bit of money there, not to say there's not, there's some money there, but the amount of money, so running a 3D printer here in Ghana, it's almost seasonal for people who especially students who have sort of final year projects and they need to make a case or a box or something like that for it, then they utilize the 3D printers. Besides those times currently, and I think the other Ghanaian makerspaces, so if anybody's had any different experience, let me know. Besides those times, you don't really see anybody 3D printing anything. So what we're trying to do as a makerspace is to try and democratize the 3D printing through trainings, as well as actually creating sort of products that people can actually use, because word of mouth goes really far here in Ghana. And so once somebody gets a good job done, they just tell the next person, and then you get a referral, and then it sort of snowballs from there. And so we have ordered a large format 3D printer, and again, while we're waiting, we have like a stock of motors and things like that, and then 3D printer boards lying around, and so we'll just try and put one together. What I think doing that gives us as a team is the ability to repair these things, because if you have enough of them, somebody has to maintain these things. Somebody has to fix them and get parts for them. And so by doing that with my team, we're able to learn how these things work. You're able to take them apart, rebuild them, and then once the time is right, you can render the repair and replacement of parts itself as a service, because we already have people who have been trained and really understand the machines. And so while we're waiting, we will throw one together. We have smaller ones that we're already using for small parts and things like that, but a large format one is something that we're really looking forward to receiving and then using for some good market. If it does work well, the ones that we're building, I'm sure it will, by the way, they tend to be cheaper because you're using local material. You also you don't have to wait close to 3 months to get one in, because you need to ship it by sea and wait 3 months. So within that 1 month, if you have all the parts, you can quickly increase your production capacity if need be. So those are some of the things that we're doing within the 3D printing space. It's nothing nearly as big as what we are doing within the metal fabrication space, but we hope to get in there and then actually sort of blaze the trail on what is possible with 3D printing, from products that can sit on the shelves in malls to signages that you can hang from your roof as an individual or as a company or whatever. We hope that within the next couple of months, we will be able to actually show some of these things. We have some ongoing partnership with companies who are looking to recycle. Over here, they're called sachet water. I don't know about what you guys call it in other countries, but it's basically water in a sachet, right? And so the people who are trying to recycle that, and so we are working with them to see if that's something that can actually be done. So we've been so it's the sachet water and then also the PET bottles that that people have done some extensive work on that. So and we're just trying to leverage on that to see if that's possible for plastic recycling and things like that. Those are like in their initial stages, and then we're still trying to navigate the costs, pricing models and things like that, to ensure that the sort of experience that we've built, and we're also able to cash in on it. So yeah, that is just about everything that we've been doing as Triple Dimension, and some of the major challenges that we faced in doing some of these things. So are there any other questions? Right.
No more questions, but I just wonder if it would be okay to do a quick round of asking the other makerspaces on the call about their experiences in similar areas, particularly technologies that can enhance the production capacities of artisans, and whether they are doing this kind of work already or are thinking about it, or what.
That'd be awesome. Who wants to go first? Oh, Steve's got his hand up.
I'm always ready to talk, but I don't want to like steal the limelight if someone else has got some insight. So is anybody else interested in sharing their experiences? Peter's freaking out here. So I'll just give you our learnings over the journey that we've done, and hopefully that relates and maybe helps you in Ghana and whoever else is on the call. So we started a makerspace 12 years ago, and we bought machines secondhand, and we found a way to rent the machines out like to members. Basically, we created a cost price that we worked out was kind of reasonable, and anyone can become a member. They get some training, 1 hour training, which is potentially revenue, but it wasn't much. And then they have access to the laser. So laser is not as industrial as a metal plasma cutter, but it's very similar. So the experience isn't as much, maybe, I don't know if you define them as artisans, but people who wanting to start businesses and use the machine to do the work. So we get a lot of people doing like traditional meat boards. So we have like quite a big traditional market of people who have celebrations, and they actually slaughter animals, and then they want to serve the meat. Sorry for all the Europeans on the call who might be freaked out by African culture and lots of meat eating. But basically it's quite an important part of the culture. So there's quite a lot of money spent on those celebrations, traditions, whatever you want to call them, and they want to brand the tradition, normally like say with a surname, or if it's a marriage celebration and they want to put the new surname in, or the clan name theoretically. And so what we have is like a lot of people coming and renting the machine per hour to add value onto a product. So they bring their product, like their wooden product, and then they put it in the machine and they etch it. And once people start seeing that, other people come. So it's very much similar to what you said about people coming when they saw the plasma cutter in action. Then people came out the woodwork going, oh, can you do this? Can you do that? But it's all quite similar. So we found that a lot of people come and rent the machine, and that's a small income, which is nice, but it's very low touch. So we teach people how to use the machine, and it's part of our community building. And so, you know, we have like a cost price thing. And what we found is that when we try to do workshops to train the public, because we were trying to create a market of people that would come and use the machines, 90% of people or 95% of people came to learn and were interested and enjoyed it and made a product, but they didn't want to come back and do production. They wanted to outsource the production back to us. And so for a long time, we battled to monetize that, because we were trying to do it for them as members, like very cheaply. But then it took a lot more time and effort, because they were basically doing them a favor every time. And that wasn't what they wanted, and it wasn't what we wanted. So eventually we realized that there's two options. One is you come as a member and you basically get the do-it-yourself service with very little help, because you've got the training and you must do it yourself. And you pay the set rate, no matter whether you mess up your job or you takes longer, you pay for the time you use on the machine. And then for the rest of the time, we can use the machine. And what we do is scheduling, is to schedule the machine. Sometimes we have a big order, run it at night, so you get more utilization on your machine. So potentially, like, I don't know how it works with you guys, but if you train the artisans how to use the plasma themselves, and you let them use it at a lower cost, and then they get what they get. You know, if they get that quality, that's just what they get, and they understand it, and there's a certain calculation they do in their head as to what's worth it and what's not. And then when people want you to do the service for them, we end up charging probably 3 times what it costs someone to do it as a member. So we have two options, like a premium service and a bottom end service, not in the middle. And that was our biggest learning, was just don't offer the middle layer. Give it, either you leave it with us and you leave us, like we don't want you watching us while we do it, because then it just makes the whole thing more difficult, and it's just not productive. And we can then schedule it. or you come and do it yourself, and we'll support you and we'll cheer you on and we'll teach you and you'll pay us to teach you, but you rent the machine. And then what that did, it created a lot of goodwill. So because people understood we weren't trying to rip them off, they knew they could do it much cheaper if they wanted to, but what the market was telling us was that they didn't want to do it. They'd rather pay for it. And that's quite a nice situation to be in, because you're charging what you feel is fair, and the market's validating that and going, yeah, actually that is fair. Like, my time is worth more than whatever you're charging. And what people would find is if they did come and try and do something themselves, it took them a lot longer. They would end up paying almost as much as we would have charged them, but using 3 times as much time because they didn't have the expertise. But at the same time, we also ended up developing a lot of small businesses, people who started their own own services and then eventually bought their own machines, which is fantastic. I mean, we had like, you know, probably nearly 10 people that have bought their own machines after using ours. And our machine is still cheaper to rent, and it's still maybe slightly bigger capacity. So those people still sometimes come back and use the machine when they need a bigger machine. So again, it's a question of like, what is your cost price, where you've got the machine set up, it doesn't cost you anything, it's just like a marginal cost, a little bit of electricity and maintenance, and the machine almost markets a certain service, and then you get the benefit of the goodwill that comes out of that service. So it's kind of my like learning and sharing of how we've engaged with people wanting to use the machines themselves. And yeah, so maybe running those workshops for young engineers, or for technical people, or for creative people who want to come and make metal signs for their, you know, numbers for their house, or just think of things that you can package as an event. And I talked about events like 2 weeks ago and how to monetize events. You could run an event for 10 people, come and make your own sign number for your house out of stainless steel on the plasma cutter, and there's a process of like design, and then you put it in the machine and you make sure that it's an A4 size, so you don't get someone coming with something huge and someone else coming with something tiny. Someone writes the word and someone puts the numbers, whatever they want to do, and they do it and they go home with it and they get excited about that. And every time they look at their number, they think of you. And that goodwill, like anytime they have orders in the future, they'll be like, hey, we want to support Michael because he helped us learn how this technology works. You're not trying, they don't feel like you're trying to like steal from them, you know, like sometimes you feel when a supplier isn't transparent about how they create something. So that worked really well for us. And then we got a lot of reviews on Google, so we get a lot of local search, and that all like without trying to start a business. We didn't want to start a laser cutting business. There wasn't a point to the makerspace. And quite honestly, for 10 years, it hasn't been a focus because it's not a lot of revenue compared to the funding, but it has created a sustainable business, and it's really created like a lot of opportunities for people to get work experience. Like we've had interns come through and work for 2-3 years and then go and get really good jobs in the market. So all in all, it's been fantastic. And I think, you know, I would have loved to have done that, or would still love to do that with metal cutting, but it's more industrial and it hasn't suited the space we've had. But yeah, for me, there's an opportunity for all makerspaces to copy that model and to rent their machine at a very low price, and then have like a premium service that they offer the members and the people who've trained. So yeah, that could be an option for developing your market. And then in terms of pricing, one thing that's, well, a few little tips and tricks is the value of a product comes from a number of layers of value. The first layer of value is the marketing and sales, and that creates trust. And without trust, nobody buys anything. So that creates value straight away. So even if you're selling something that someone could buy somewhere else, if they trust you, they'll pay more than if they don't trust someone. So there's a value to that. Then there's the value of the design that comes in, and the support and understanding and qualifying the person's needs and creating a solution for them. And then there's the labor and the technology that creates that value. And then there's the sort of service level, like how well you interact with them and how nice they feel about it. And there's your material cost, and then there's like assembly, you know, where we offer a service where you just give you the parts, which is cheap, and we love it because it's easy. And then we offer like a much more expensive service where you want us to join those two parts together and paint them and glue them. Like it's double the price. And people are like, but I don't understand. Why is it double just to paint it? And it's because that's not our process. And it means that, like we might mess it up, and it's like, it's going to require like a supervision. And it's like, we're going to have to talk to you 10 times and check like exactly how you want it. Whereas if you're just cutting, it's just easy. So understanding where all those layers of value come from is quite important in pricing your offering, because you as one person who's got all the stuff in your mind, you discount all of those things, and you're trying to compete with the market and on a technology, or on a, like, we got a laser cutter, they got a laser cutter. But at the end of the day, the customer doesn't care what technology you use, that you're solving a problem for them. And so the first layer of value, as I said, which we could get with offering the services like as a DIY thing, is we create massive trust, and that instantly creates more value for us, for our laser cutting service. And then the design, you guys are, I'm sure, are very good at design, understanding the clients, getting good at like interacting with clients and making like a streamlined process. Maybe build a form, maybe you have like a link that you send them to before they come to you, so that you get all that work done in a very efficient way, and that way reduce the cost of labor, and so all those layers of value, like you need to price each one, and then think about this little thing where if you ask yourself, if I had to times this by 1,000, would it still be profitable, or how would I do it? And so if you're subsidizing all that, like say you're doing the design yourself and you're not charging for it, and you're doing the invoicing yourself and you're not charging for it, you're just charging for the percentage of the cost of cutting, and then you have 1,000 times more orders, you now have to go and hire people to do the invoicing, you have to hire other people to do the price, the admin, whatever, the design, and that doesn't scale. So then you need to actually go, okay, wait, then my pricing's not right. If it doesn't scale, that means I need to build a small amount in for design, a small amount in for invoicing, and for admin, and for annual returns and bank fees and all those different things, because those ultimately are the things that you're not really realizing what it costs you to deliver the thing, and you think you're making money and you're not. So that times 1,000 thing I found to be very helpful as a way of thinking. And then that way of being transparent, because you guys as a makerspace, that's your competitive advantage. Your competitors they don't understand how to like let people in and like teach people the thing that they do. They want to keep it all secret, and they don't want to empower people. And so, don't compete with them like that. Compete by being transparent and by being more available. And that might even, I don't know what it looks like in terms of the market you're working with, but there's got to be value in creating that trust. So figure out how to unlock that value, I think.
No, thank you so much. I mean, that's like super helpful. And yeah, one of the things that I think brings people around is, like you said, just the willingness to teach you how to do it. So somebody comes in and says, oh, hey, I see this machine, can you teach me how to build it? I'm like, hey, yeah, sure, come in, we'll absolutely teach you everything about it. Nothing's hidden there. Schematics are all available, you can grab it and build your own if you want. And like you rightly said, once you open the door for somebody like that, they practically hand you the contract and say, okay, you build it instead, So yeah, some of the things that you said have been super informative for me, and it's something that we're going to learn from a lot, especially because we're in relatively close proximity with like a university, and so there's a lot of students and people who want to learn a thing or two. And so one of the things that we hope to do when the students come around is to start the trainings on how to use a 3D printer, how to use a plasma cutter, how to use CO2 laser cutter, and then you can walk in and do it by yourself. Or if you need something done professionally really well, then you can have us do that for you. And so that is something that I really like. And then we'll look at how we can implement it within our ecosystem as well. As for the artisans, these guys don't have time. So they'll just pay you do it for them, especially when it comes to processing sheet metal. They'll just pay you to do that for them, because they've got other jobs that they need to tackle. And so to some extent, I don't think that they see any value in coming to learn how to use a machine that they don't own or they cannot afford right now. And so they'd rather just pay you to do the work for them. However, if it's a training on machines that they can afford, like welding and things like that, they would absolutely jump on to training on some of these machines. Anna, you have a question?
Thank you. Yeah, it's actually a question to the Kenyan makerspaces. I mean, we've got to finish in just a couple of minutes, but I would love to hear from one or both of the Kenyan spaces on the call, particularly on that question around because you guys have got a huge artisan sector there, the Juakali, and on that question about whether they would rather pay you to have services done for them, or whether they want to learn how to use machines themselves. What are your experiences? Come on, someone. Martin, Nassau, Mike.
Hey Anna, sorry, like we're not so here. Like, will you pardon the question?
Yeah, so I just would love to hear about your experience with whether you work with artisans in your community, and if you have anything to add on this question, particularly about whether they like to have services done for them and you prepare the parts, or whether they would like to learn how to use the machines themselves, and if that's something that you've tested out yet.
Actually, maybe I can chip in. It depends with the type of artisan that we get. We have semi-literate, and then we have the ones that are literate. So like for the semi-literate, they prefer us doing the things for them, and then they do the finishing, the final touches to the product that they have. While the literate ones, they prefer doing and learning everything from scratch, because when we charge them, they feel like we are overcharging them. So they feel like, why don't I learn the technology and get to design things by myself so that I can get things on a cheaper level, rather than I giving the project to the lab and doing for me, making it much expensive. So we have interacted with two type of artisans. We have the semi, and then we have the literate, both showing different kind of interest. But even for the semi-literate, since we are giving them that leverage or that opportunity that if you are going to fabricate by yourself, we are going to give you a certain percentage discount, then they prefer also for them learning the technology. And for us, we encourage that, because we want to make like a franchising way to the lab, so that it's not we as the lab spending a lot of time doing their design work, but they themselves do their design work because they know the creativity or the type of work that needs to be done. And from there, they come learn the technology, design by themselves, and they fabricate by themselves. But majority of them, they come in because of demand and the urgency of the project. They prefer us doing the design rather than them coming and learning the technology. But currently, we are seeing that shift from them because of the price discounts. Thank you.
That's really interesting. Thank you, Nasa. I'm afraid I think we're running out of time, so I perhaps won't ask anyone else more questions. I'll just give Michael the chance for any final words.
Oh, yes. The very little interaction that we've had, I have learned a lot. Again, we're very young makerspace. Some of you have like 10 years on us. And so there's so much that we can learn from you. And then even in this session, there have been like some very useful things that I have picked up. And so it's been lovely spending time with all of you. And I hope that everybody learned a thing or two. So thank you for having me.
Thanks so much, Michael. Thanks for running this session, and thank you to those of you who have participated in it as well. A quick reminder, next week on Tuesday, we have the session on product development, and it's going to be run by Enrico, who some of you have met in person already, and others of you who will be meeting him. But he's going to be talking particularly about how you can run a product development process that really connects with your market, and so that you end up with products that the market wants. And so I think that'll be again a very interesting and insightful session. So thank you all for your time, and thanks especially to you, Michael.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks. Bye-bye all.
Bye.